gathered in the upper room, just waiting for the spark. A flame that shook the shadows, it lit up every heart. Each tongue began to sing aloud, no borders held them down. A story forged in courage from the cities to the towns. Rise up, feel the fire inside. Take the call, let the spirit guide. Every step, every word that we act, we're living out the book of Acts. The chains were breaking open, the blind began to see. Prison walls crumbled down, they walked out free. With love as their banner, they turned the world around. A revolution started with echoes of the sound. Rise up, feel the fire inside. Take the call, let the spirit guide. Every step, every word that we act, we're living out the book of Acts. They carried light through all the lands, through storms and trials with steady hands. From the streets to every soul, the mission clear, the gospel whole. Now here we stand in modern days, their mission still alive. The echoes of their bravery in every heart survive. So let's be bold and take our place. The time to act is near. The message moves eternally. It's loud and crystal clear. Rise up, feel the fire inside. Take the call, let the spirit guide. Every step, every word that we act, we're living out the book of Acts. Rise up, feel the fire inside. Take the call, let the spirit guide. Every step, every word that we act, we're living out the book of Acts. Rise up, stand tall, don't look away. Love's the anthem, they can't decay. Chains will break as truth shines through. Jesus gave his name to me, and yeah, you. Rise up, feel the fire inside. Take the call, let the spirit guide. Every step, every word that we act, we're living out the book of Acts.
All right, welcome everyone to Leadership in the Book of Acts, or Axe in April, if you like. At this point, just to let you know, logistically, we are going to extend past April just a little bit. Um, it's yeah, just some things going on. I will not be doing these broadcasts uh, Friday through Sunday of this week, which actually kind of makes some sense when you think about it. It's Holy Week, and yeah, it's a time of that. As much as I'd love to, I guess, but I will actually be out of my office, and trying to broadcast remotely just has not gone well for me. So I am just going to not complicate matters, and we'll just pick it up. Yeah, after that fact. So it's just so you know, um, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you'll have time for spending time with family and whatnot, because that's what I'll be doing as well. But hey, let's jump right in here and have some additional logistics at the end today. So, but just wanted to give it a chance for some folks to jump in here live with us. And so, here we go. Acts 12. We are reading from the Amplified edition of the Bible, and so yeah, let's jump right in here. Now, at that time, Herod, or Agrippa the First, grandson of Herod the Great, since he was of Hasmonean descent. He was partly Jewish. Hasmonean. I, might have to have the live research crew look that one up. I don't know what Hasmonean is. So interesting. So Herod Agrippa the First, the king of Jews, arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to harm them. And he had James, the brother of John, put to death with the sword. Hmm. So I'm just gonna highlight that here. Sorry, just and when he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded to have Peter arrested as well. This was during the days of the unleavened bread, the Passover week. Oh, well, that's what we're in right now. When he had seized Peter, put him in prison, turning him over to the four squads of soldiers for of four, turning him over to four squads of soldiers, of four each, to guard him in rotation throughout the night, planning after the Passover to bring him out before the people for execution. Um, Anybody out there seeing some parallels here? Maybe a certain other time this might have happened. Pretty much exactly like this. So Peter was kept in prison, but fervent and persistent prayer for him was being made to God by the church. Verse 6. The very night before Herod was to bring him forward, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and sentries were in the front of the door guarding the prison. Suddenly, an angel of the Lord appeared beside him. Interesting, since he was sleeping in between two shoulders, and so an angel appeared beside him anyway, and a light shone in the cell. The angel struck Peter's side and awakened him. Sorry, I'm just like, so an angel appears and he's like, "This dude's asleep. Wake up!" Waked him, saying, "Get up quickly." And the chains fell off his hands. The angel said to him, "Prepare yourself, strap on your sandals to get ready for whatever may happen." And he did so. And the angel told him, "Put on your robe and follow me." And Peter went out, following the angel. He did not realize what was being done by the angel was real. He thought he was seeing a vision, as I would as well. I mean, let's be honest here. This is all pretty surreal. When they had passed the first guard and the second, they came to the iron gate that leads into the city. Of its own accord, it swung open for them, and they went along one street, and at once the angel left him. So a parallel here is we see that the angel is acting on these things, right? So that we have now a door opening of its own accord. That is pretty wild. That it's not saying that the angel opened the door or the God opened the door. Just says it swung open for them out of its own accord. A little unusual, but yeah. So in where we see Jesus literally walking through walls after he had come back. Peter's not doing that. He's being guided out by angels, and so there's a supernatural presence that is there because Peter's Peter, you know. So, but yeah, I'm sure that they would think that he walked through walls after this. Verse 11: When Peter came to his senses, he said, "Now I know for certain that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from the hand of Herod and from all the Jewish people who were expecting to do, or all that the Jewish people were expecting to do to me." When he realized what had happened, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John. So this would be Mary, the aunt of Barnabas. So her son, John Mark, and Barnabas were cousins. Okay. So mother of John, who's also called Mark. Okay. And wrote the Gospel of Mark. That makes sense. Where many believers were gathered together and were praying continually and had been praying all night. When he knocked at the door of the gateway, a servant girl named Rhoda came to answer. Recognizing Peter's voice, in her joy she failed to open the gate, but ran in and announced that Peter was standing in front of the gateway. They said to you, "Are you out of your mind?" But she kept insisting that it was so. They kept saying, "It is his angel." Interesting. But meanwhile, Peter continued knocking. And when they opened the door and saw him, they were completely amazed. But motioning to them with his hand to be quiet and listen, he described how the Lord had led him out of the prison. And he said, "Report these things to James and the brothers and sisters." So James, the oldest of the Lord's half-brothers, was the leader of the Jerusalem church and wrote the letter of James. Very diplomatically said there, half-brothers. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, other translations don't have this as James, by the way. Um, have him as, I believe it's Judah. Or is it Jonah? Might be Jonah. Anyway, that's just a weird little quirk of the early translations of this, where it was James, and the legend is that it was because that of the original translation being the King James version, and him wanting to kind of write himself into this or something like that. That's the legend. I don't know if it's actually true. I don't know, but anyway, that's the common. Debate these days is whether we should call it James or not, but whatever. For all intents and purposes, and we know this person is the person, and brother of Jesus wrote the book of James, whatever we want to call it. Okay, it's fine. The more important thing is Peter is telling him what has happened, and he left and went to another place. Now, verse 18: When the day came, there was no small disturbance among the soldiers. I said when the day came. When day came, there was no small disturbance among the soldiers out of what had become of Peter. When Herod searched for him and could not find him, he interrogated the guards and commanded that they be led away to execution. Ouch. Then he went down from Judea to Caesarea Maritima and spent some time there. Okay. This is the kind of stuff you see in like uh, action movies. This is like quintessential bad guy stuff here. But foreshadowing. Now, Herod Agrippa I was extremely angry with the people of Tyre and Sidon. Let's see. Nothing is known about the reason for Herod's hatred. Oh, okay. It may have something to do with the competition between Caesarea Maritima and the two northern cities, since they were all major seaports. Hmm. Yeah, sure. The delegates came to in a united group after persuading Blastus. It's a cool name. The king's chamberlain to support their cause. So he's a highly trusted, regarded chief officer. They asked for peace because their country was fed by imports of grain and other goods by the king's country. Nah, I'm not going to go there. 21. On an appointed day, Herod dressed himself in his royal robes and sat on the throne, the tribunal or rostrum, and began delivering a speech to his people. What's royal say? And the Jewish historian Josephus describes this as a glittering silver garment. Wow. So not your usual blue or purple. Interesting. The assembled people kept shouting, "It is the voice of a god and not of a man." Hmm. And at once an angel of the Lord struck him down because he did not give the God the glory and instead permitted himself to be worshipped. And he was eaten by worms and died 5 days later. Wait. Uh, Wow. So an angel of the Lord struck him down because he did not give God the glory. Okay. And so remember that this is apparently the king of the Jews, quote unquote, would be the title that this guy had, right? And so because he's basically being worshipped here um, by people that were there and didn't rebuke them for it, um, it'd be one thing for just your average Roman to do that, but because there's a Jewish background here, there would have been vows involved, and this would be a big deal. So at once the angel of the Lord struck him down because he didn't give God the glory and instead had permitted himself to be worshipped. Now he was eaten by worms and died 5 days later. Herod's painful death over a 5-day period in 44 is recorded by Josephus, the Jewish historian. Okay, so it's not just this account. Um, that's I'm trying to imagine that uh, being eaten by worms for 5 days. Eek. That's of ways to go, but yeah. But the word of the Lord, the good news about the salvation through Christ, continued to grow and spread, increasing in effectiveness. Barnabas and Saul came back from Jerusalem when they had completed their mission, bringing with them John, who was also called Mark. Oh, interesting. So that actually makes more sense. So basically, this is saying instead of saying came back from Jerusalem, it's saying back to Jerusalem, which actually makes a bit more sense. Uh, yeah, it's a weird. a weird distinction there. But in any event, so I'm trying to think of like leadership lessons for today, that sort of thing. Oh, sorry, that was a little premature. Um, Courage is one that comes to mind here. That Peter had to, especially given that that the other James was already put to death. Hmm. Yeah, maintaining courage during that would be really important. Um, but there's also a this has actually been on my mind for the last, I would say, 48 hours or so, of something that I'm noting as a trend. And I posted something to Facebook that has some people upset with me, I guess, or whatever. I don't know if they're really upset or just disagreeing or caught in semantics or what the deal is. It doesn't matter. But the notion is that we sometimes don't treat our leaders like leaders, and sometimes our leaders are not leaders, and that's just a truth that I'm facing here. But um, we need to be praying for them. This was something that was a challenge given to me a couple of years ago that I found very difficult to pray for, specifically those that are in government and that are quote unquote leaders. I have a hard time calling the vast majority of politicians leaders right now. It's just a very difficult thing for me to do, especially given how much I've been studying it lately. I'm just not seeing. I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing the traits that I would want to see. Um, I see a lot of traits of managers, of people that are in charge, um, but I'm not really, or those that just want to be. I see that too. There's a lot of ambition and a lot of um, manipulation of words and things like that. But I'm not seeing leaders. So, well, what's the response to that? Well, just like in verse 5 here, we need to be praying for our leaders. And in this case, it is praying for his safety and for him to be. Um, I mean, it doesn't say specific prayers. I really am. We're just assuming that the fervent and persistent prayer for him was literally to save his life, and not let him be executed on the same day that Jesus would have been executed. It's not good. So so that would have been likely their prayers there. But the simple fact is they prayed for their leaders, and we need to be doing the same thing. And I'm going to say, especially if they are people we disagree with, especially if they are people that we don't respect, we need to be praying for them. We need to be praying for them much more so because of that. And that was something that I was trying to get out of people, is whether or not they think of in those terms or not. And I think mission success as far as that goes. But it really is one of those things where people can say they respect people, but when you pull back the curtain a bit, and you see that they actually don't, that's always a challenge. And so my mindset goes back to that humility, of, and am I always been great about this? No, no. It's when we're called to pray for our enemies, sometimes I think of them as enemies, and that's actually not what I'm saying here. I'm saying, like, for people that are in elected positions, and I'm saying locally, at the state level, at the country level, at the world level, even for some um, things that are going on. We need to be praying for these people. We need to be praying that their hearts would be towards God, and that God would be leading them, not their own ambitions, and certainly not Satan. Because, well, I will just say it that it's been clear to me for some time now that our leaders aren't actually seeking out God. They'll say these things, they'll give it lip service, but their actions deny that very clearly. And I really don't care where you stand politically on this. I don't stand politically. I'm seeing it across the board. So that tells me that it's a bit of a crisis, and that's kind of one of the reasons I'm doing this. Is that I want to approach this from a position of us being humbled enough to pray for the people that we may not agree with. And this goes just as true if you are at a job and you are being quote unquote led or managed by someone that you don't respect. They're just a boss. You need to be praying for them. You absolutely need to be going to God in prayer for their success and in some cases for their salvation. It it changes you as much as anything. It changes your perspective. When you're, you know, getting past the um there's in Proverbs we read about heaping whole oh my gosh, I can't even speak. Heaping coals on the head of your enemy and that sort of thing. The attitude here is more of not seeing them as an enemy, but seeing them as a coworker or as someone who is, you know, at the root, you know, you have the same mission, same reasons or why, just might be expressed differently or might have various psychological traumas and who knows what else associated with it over the years. It's just a reality that we face. And so it's really important for us to be praying for these just as much as we need to be praying for people that are in the mission field that are being literally held. Um, I had another moment of heartbreak this weekend thinking about what's going on in Syria, for example, and just the chaos there. I mean, there's good that's come out of this with that dictator being thrown aside, but now there's just a chaos and a lot of you know turmoil and revenge and just ugliness, and there's people that are being persecuted on multiple sides, but Christians are having a hard time there. And we're talking about Damascus here. We're talking about an important center in the history of the church, as we're seeing. And so it's important for us to be praying for these people, and it's important for us to pray for deliverance, just as they prayed for Peter to be delivered. Now, does everybody get let out of a prison like this in spectacular fashion? By the way, just an angel walking in and doing all this. But here's the thing: Peter might have initially obeyed just because he thought he was dreaming. He was like, "This cannot possibly be real." He's just following a vision. But the reality is, he obeyed. He took action, and that to me is another trait that leaders have is putting the doubts aside and doing. And that is something where, as my mentor in this regard, John Maxwell, says that a leader will never lead past their own commitment level. That's the law of the lid and the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. That law of the lid is important. It's just like that's a point. If you're leading at a level 5, your team will only be able to leave at a level 4. And so if you're somebody who's always in doubt about the action steps and over analyzing things like a certain guy right in front of you tends to be, that's the level of leadership that your team will be able to achieve. That you're not going to be able to lead past that. And so it's really important that we know that Peter was drawn to these things and said, okay, let's go. It's like, what's going to happen if, or what? I mean, are you sure that we need to go here? No, he's not asking those questions. He's just like, okay, let's go. And now he realizes when he comes to his senses that it's like, yeah, okay, I've been rescued here. It's in other words, uh, a lot like I have said these things in my recent life. There's like, there's a moment where like, whoa, okay, that all happened, and I wasn't responsible for making that happen. That wasn't my idea. This wasn't me doing it. It was God taking care of me. Like in one case in particular, literally 7 years ahead of the drama that I was facing, God had already prepared everything to be able to handle that, 7 years in the future. It wasn't me that did that. I didn't have that foresight. It was me being rescued from that. So bigger time frame, but same kind of concept here. And if I was sitting there, over analyzing things, I don't know where I'd be today. I just don't know. Actually, I probably don't want to think about that much. But yeah. So I'm actually not sure what the point of this part of the story is. To be honest with you, the whole um, servant girl. I mean, obviously, um, this Mary, the mother of John, was that family was obviously more well off because they had a servant girl, right? So and they had room and a gate, and that was not. This was not a poor family. Just noting that, but yeah, kind of wild. And then, of course, the death of Herod, and this is probably the last leadership lesson I'm going to lead with you today is that humility. Not believing your own press, but also giving credit where credit's due. Again, it wasn't the fact that people were saying these things; it's the fact that he didn't correct them, and he permitted himself to be worshipped in his shiny robe. Um, so the theme song today would be something like "Avoid the Worms." Being eaten alive by worms for 5 days. I'm yeah. I'm probably having nightmares tonight. Um, Oof, nasty. In any event, do keep in mind we do have that giveaway going on. If there's anything that stood out to you, um, feel free to interact with us on that. And then I'm probably just gonna let this go for the day. Honestly, I'm got just a weird day ahead of me. I think so, and I do need to close this out. But let me just say that I do hope that there's something good you got out of today. I did. I actually did get a few things out of this that I'm actually processing so much it's hard to actually talk right now. So we'll just let it go for today and, and leave it at that. I've got some journaling to do, I think, and so I do encourage you to do the same. And I will see you again tomorrow. Um, I forgot to write down for myself what time it was tomorrow. I think it was a different time. Yes, much earlier in the morning tomorrow. So we'll be at an odd, little bit of an odd time, 8:15 tomorrow morning, 8:15 Central Time. There's various reasons, but let's just say that tomorrow is going to be a very, very, very busy day for me, and that was just the best time that was going to allow me to do this for more than 15 minutes. So here we go. So 8:15 tomorrow morning. I hope to see you there. If not, you can certainly always catch the replay. I do recommend on YouTube. If you need the link there, you know what the best way to do right now? Go to this giveaway, enter to win that, and that'll be one of the things you can click on to earn more points and more entries to the contest and win a copy of oof this book. I have it here. So, um, yes, actually, not a copy of it, like literally the one I'm holding in my hand right now, touched by these hands. these unholy, not to be worshipped hands. I actually was hoping to have John Maxwell sign uh, a copy for me and a copy for you, but it didn't work out that way. Maybe another time. You never know. But in any event, be blessed by the best out there. And then, more importantly, go be a blessing to all the rest, just as Peter and the disciples were doing. And we'll continue on tomorrow. Actually, by the way, tomorrow we will have a new video to go over because we're kind of entering into another section of Acts now that it's been kind of reported that Paul and Barnabas are back. Or sorry, Saul this time. He hadn't really been called Paul yet, but we'll get there. So we have a little bit of foreshadowing going on there. And then trying to say there's something else I was going to say about that. But anyway, so look forward to a new. I'm going to go ahead and do a broadcast of the Bible Project's summary of 13. See, I'm caught off guard here. 13 to some other chapter that's in that section that I can't bring to mind right now, but we'll do that tomorrow as well. So look forward to seeing you then. And yeah, look forward to seeing you then. Let's leave it at that. Bye now.